Apparently, America's #1 television persona Wendy Williams has been conceded into the psychological clinic, and her group is attempting to conceal the subtleties of her land in a stunning new development. It has been uncovered that somebody was attempting to purposefully demolish Wendy's brain and get her regulated. And it seems as we don't have to go far to figure out the guilty party behind this story, since it's regardless her ex-Kevin Tracker. Greetings to everybody. And welcome back to Celeb Live Station. So Wendy's unsound condition and concerning well-being state has been stressing fans since the second the difficulty television diva started her separation cycle against Kevin Tracker. And keeping in mind that everybody accepted that Wendy at long last continued on, and every one of her concerns with this cheating and filtering master in the past, it seems like he figured out how to keep gradually obliterating her emotional well-being in the midst of the new news about Wendy being hospitalized. One source guaranteed that Wendy isn't feeling improved by any means after a long therapy, and the idea of her well-being alarm has nothing to do with her actual state. Normally, many fans are concerned due to the clashing assertions showing up in the media, and it seems like we have at long last found the solution to the fundamental inquiry. I've been moving in regards to what on earth is happening with Wendy. As you may, Wendy Williams got some much-needed rest to request to terrible and muddled dramatization that elaborate her ex-Kevin Tracker. And keeping in mind that we as a whole were feeling that she at long last figured out how to dispose of him. Obviously, it's not what he needs. And as human visitors, Kevin returned in her existence with his retribution in light of the fact that their hypothesis that he might be behind her critical hospitalization, and it appears to be very conceivable since, in such a case that you recollect Kevin faulted his ex for destroying his life and committed to annihilate hers in vengeance. So as you most likely are aware, Wendy's life should get better after she had won her last fight against Kevin Tracker for cash. Yet it appeared to be that her inconveniences just started to heap after that. As of late, the 58-year-old Wendy Williams show ex-hab has dropped her 25,000 talking commitment at the Atlanta Ladies Exhibition last month. And as a source told the U.S. Sun that there had been inquiries concerning assuming Wendy was all right to show up at the exhibition, adding that there was moving by some to get her to Atlanta and to put her on that stage. As the unknown source asserted, Wendy's capacity to perform has been rough. Best case scenario, she can assemble a sentence one day, yet not the following. There have been serious inquiries as of late about in the event that she will at any point improve. Yet when Williams' rep affirmed to the media that the television diva wouldn't go to Atlanta Ladies' Enemy, he gave no thinking to the scratch-off a source that her family knows about. She has been hospitalized, yet they don't have every one of the insights concerning what happened. First, her rep was attempting to conceal the way that Wendy is feeling more awful, and surprisingly, denied all bits of gossip, immovably telling the media, "I can affirm that Wendy Williams isn't in that frame of mind." As announced, I can likewise affirm she isn't in that frame of mind. As announced anyway later, it was affirmed by her child, Kevin Tracker, that Wendy was hospitalized, yet no insights concerning the idea of her medical care were shared to the public. Kevin wasn't even mindful of his mother's state until the second one of the lawyers from Wendy's group reached him to request to sign a few papers. At any rate, nobody uncovered what sort of office Wendy has been owed up to. And the main we know without a doubt is that the assertion from one source saying at this point, it's obvious that she is in the medical clinic this moment. And it's not recovery. I don't know which medical clinic. Now the story gets considerably more evil as hypotheses about Wendy being conceded into a psychological emergency clinic are filling the virtual entertainment, and everything focuses to her slippery ex-Kevin Tracker, assuming a colossal part in sending her there. Well, evidently, the fight with Wendy isn't over for himself, and in the wake of losing his provision case in court, he chose to continue to additional threatening activities. Kevin has over and over said, in his after separate from interviews that Wendy is needing clinical therapy in some kind of division to manage any sort of emergency or any sort of help, and keeping in mind that he attempted to imagine being just worried for his ex as a matter of fact. He was chipping away at the arrangement to send her away for good. Well, assuming you the full story between these two, you could never accept that a man like Kevin is loaded up with honest goals. Thinking about that, Wendy was monetarily supporting him for quite a long time, and truth be told, she was the provider in the family. Kevin feels harsh to lose such a simple pay, even after his frightful cheating. And fathering a kid without both mom and dad present, Wendy was sufficiently liberal to consent to pay him provision, which let me let you know it was a gigantic lump of cash to carry on with a destitution pre-life. Yet in the event that you followed this story, you definitely realize that no measure of installment was sufficient to immerse Kevin Hungers. And in particular, insufficient cash might at any point be enough for his escort Sharina Hudson. And even Wendy herself once conceded during her show that she has consistently known where all her cash goes welcome to hotly debated issues. Serena Hudson, escaping my vehicle with my cash, Sharina's spouse, had unquestionably fostered a thing for extravagance. Yet the thing is, she didn't appear to make to the point of matching her craving. So she found Kevin, who was prepared to support every one of her eccentricities, utilizing his then-wife cash. And if you were to ask me, that was a perfect life these two were having while Wendy was working with Wendy's cash. Sharina figured out how to start a few organizations enlisted into Rub School, and, surprisingly, refreshed her closet with planner outfits and embellishments, so Kevin and Serena were residing enormous despite Wendy's good faith. So no big surprise when he went too far and fathered a child with his paramour. The television have concluded she at last had enough and sought legal separation from her significant other of almost 22 years. And to Kevin's sheer awe, the separation went flawlessly. Wendy consented to send him divorce settlement checks, and 2 or 3 of these parasites thought they were agreed to life anyway, in an insane new development. Wendy let completely go over funds, and her monetary counsel cut off the divorce settlement installment, leaving Kevin and Serena with nothing. So rather than letting his ex be, Kevin settled to prosecute her and requested that her gatekeeper makes the installments. As it was required, Kevin spent a ton of his cash and time attempting to get one more dime from Wendy, yet everything was trivial in his recording. Kevin attempted to convince the court that he 100% relied upon these installments, which were consented to in their conjugal repayment consent. To reside, I have fallen behind on the majority of my bills. I right now live locally that expects installments to the mortgage holder's affiliation, and I'm behind on that bill. Furthermore, he added that all that in his life was self-destructing, and he was unable to try and cover the essential bills. When these assertions of the court surfaced on the media, Kevin made himself a recurring bit of fun all around the web, and everybody discovered that he was nothing without his better half. He fundamentally conceded that he was a woeful failure, and I surmise nobody will fail to remember him making statements like, "My vehicle protection hasn't been paid because of not getting month-to-month severance installments. I'm behind on charge card installments, since I have no cash since the severance installments were suspended." Yet the adjudicator wasn't moved by Kevin's tears, and found his cases for Wendy's fortune not new. Evidently, such a choice chafed Tracker, and he endeavored to get increasingly more money from his ex by different means, like compromising. Nothing worked, and Kevin was so miserable seeing Wendy continuing on and even straightforwardly examining the issues of their marriage. I've realized that Kevin is a sequential cheat. Whenever I first found out was while I was pregnant with our child on bed rest. I surmise Kevin could have done without their grimy material being broadcasted in the public, since Wendy's words just depicted him in the awful light, and keeping in mind that there was little he could do around then in view of his absence of impact without Wendy close by, he was trusting that his second will assault. And let's be real, It doesn't seem to be a happenstance. Such Wendy's reality flipped around after she chose to openly reveal more insight into Kevin's monstrosities. In addition to the shortfall of cash, made a tremendous break in Kevin and Serena's relationship. And there were even tales that she was leaving him since he was an awful supplier, well, with everything coming at him. Without a moment's delay, Tracker saw as nothing better than to fault his ex for these difficulties. And he committed to demolish her consequently. It appears as though Kevin's threatening statement worked out on the grounds that by what other method would you make sense of all that is happening with Wendy plainly? There is somebody in her ongoing circle who doesn't hope everything works out for her. And perhaps there's even an offender in her group employed by Kevin that needs to keep Miss Wendy from improving. And a few fans genuinely wish somebody to take great consideration of Wendy, whether it will be her child or her sibling. He certainly needs security from all evil impact that she has been under for a long time, and she should be out of the spotlight as one individual, composed sure the way that I'd very much want to see Wendy Williams back on TV on the off chance that it has something to do with her well-being. And I say no deal with your mother, Kevin, fend the vultures off. And another client added any adjudicator granting him provision should be sued. No man merits divorce settlement, not to mention a miscreant who destroyed her life, and believes that her should uphold another young woman and their family. No typical appointed authority would do that. He destroyed her lifehood, yet needs to be upheld. She merits harms herself, assuming you take a gander at the circumstance with Wendy. Everything turned out to be far more detestable for her. After she had won that support case, many individuals accept that it's Kevin retribution. And it's a question of dignity for him to triumph ultimately and arise a victor in this conflict with X, so he could have utilized that.